Alright, well, we're just looking at that area. Looking at it very carefully because anything like this, you know, nice thick area, lots of fallen over branches, sticks and leaves, and a little termite mound. All of this is a perfect hiding place for a young leopard. And believe me, you could look at it like that and you could be lying there, and I've seen it before where you, well, the times I didn't see it I wouldn't know about, I guess. But if I go just by the amount of times that I looked in a place like this, didn't see the leopard, and then suddenly it sort of, you know, focuses. It's almost like when something suddenly comes into focus. Now, for every time that's happened, I imagine at least once every time I didn't see it at all as well. I think that is why, of all the animals out here, I'm a huge fan of elephant, all the different game, lion, everything is great, but there's nothing as exciting for me personally. I know many of you will agree. The most exciting animal to spot, that moment when you realize it's a leopard, for me that is still something very special. But if we can't find him, I think what we're going to do is we're going to just take a little drive, go once more past the place we left him earlier today, which is this termite mound. I'll show you now when we get there, but we left him there this afternoon. I was hoping this afternoon just to drive up and find him there, but it wasn't the case. But what we're going to do then is just take a short drive down towards Treehouse Dam, that area, see what else might be around the waterholes. Give it maybe 45 minutes or so, get it a little bit later, and after we'll come back here again, because maybe then he's active, maybe Mum is coming back to fetch him. All things that could help us in the process of finding him. This is where we left him today. This is a pretty good place, not a lot of cover, but a nice big termite mound that he can lie on, get a good visual around. The tree in the background, that's a false marula tree. Would have been a good place if he needed to hide. But alas, he had other plans. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to come back here half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. Also, just for an update from this morning, those wild dogs, beautiful pack that we saw this morning, 13 in total. We saw or counted, well, I personally counted 11, but one of the other guys, Sean, from Aratuzan Lodge, further south of here, he knows the pack well. He counted 12 and he said there should be 13, so the other one was maybe just lagging behind somewhere. But they've moved on. We're not exactly sure where, but with wild dogs, they could be anywhere. I mean, they cover massive distances. They're great runners, very similar to wolves, really. Pack hunters, intelligent animals, but a big part of their hunting strategy is to just cover big ground. So they just sort of eat up the miles, and in the process, often the hunting opportunities sort of erupt out of anywhere. It's tantalizing because I know there's a leopard just here somewhere. Can't see him, I know he's there though. Let's do a quick check on the road here. Guys, this is just in case maybe this is your first drive with us. As we said earlier, we are in Sabi Sands Game Reserve, which is a private game reserve within the Greater Kruger National Park. So it's a very large area. So I'm just listening to another radio there. Kruger National Park it's a bit bigger than New Jersey, I think. It's over 2 million hectares, 7 million acres, massive area. But within this reserve, you're going to see we're going to take lots of small little tracks and things. This is one of the main roads, which is why you might see a couple of signs up here. This is just showing people which directions all the different lodges are. I'm taking this because I want to get to the waterhole, so I'm taking sort of the main road if you want. One of the guides at Cheetah Plain Lodge going past. Alright. We're going to just give this a little bit of a rest, and we're going to come back here with a fresh set of eyes and maybe find that young cat. promise I made in the last few drives is that every game drive you go on will provide a surprise for you. So we're busy looking for that surprise. I like being surprised as much as you do. Hayden is doing the same thing. So I think I join him for a bit. He's still looking around as well. And I'll see you back here in a bit.
Folks, we just went along a couple of roads to see if we could pick up some tracks, and we picked up some really fresh tracks of his coming along a road that was parallel to where we were. Then we think he's cut off through the bush. Sometimes they will go down along a road for some period of time and then walk off in the bush and go through the bush, but I can't see any more. Whenever I put my head out the window, out the edge of the car here, it's because we're just trying to get a look at some tracks, and we don't really want to drive over them if we can, because it just actually obliterates the track. Can't see anything here, so what I think we do is we just head down here. He drinks at this dam quite often. And we'll just go down and approach nice and quietly. I have been down here before where he's been laid up in a little depression, like a little hole in the ground, and we sat there for ages, and then he just lifted his head up once and I saw him. And the other time I've seen him over here, I've seen a tail flick to get rid of flies, and that was another time. So let's just see how we go. It's a much cooler route down there through a little drainage line. Got some buffalo down here. And I'm just looking for our boy. A lot of buffalo there. That's quite beautiful to look at there. Just a quick stop whilst I'm just scanning around. Just going to get my binoculars out, folks, and just have a little look around whilst you're looking at those buffalo. All notice, if you see, they're all got their rump or their hindquarters facing the and then we've got an elephant just here as well. So folks, interesting. I want to just tell you, I looked straight at the waterhole looking for Q, and we've got an elephant right here. I think it's a young bull, just seen through there. And the interesting thing, folks, about that, sorry to chop and change leopard to buffalo to elephant, but that's what it's all about. It's all about whatever the script is giving us today, and this incredible play. Okay. So this is a young boy. I've just got to, whilst you're watching those beautiful pictures, it's a bit behind the vegetation, but I just want him to get to know us a little bit. Not sure, I don't know this individual. He looks really calm, but at the same time, we just always want to make sure that we have huge respect. We make sure the animals get to know us a little bit before we just get up in a better position for you. He's probably just going to take a few steps forward. There's a lot of noises going on around at the moment, folks, as well. A couple of buffalo just vocalising, but we'll stay with this elephant for the minute. Whilst you're looking at that beautiful elephant, let me just have a scan around for Q. I highly doubt that he's going to be by this waterhole with these buffalo around. They would have picked up his scent and chased him off, I'd imagine. So we're still on the lookout, but he may return also to that the remnants of that kudu kill in that tree. So we do have a plan. It's a rough plan, but a plan nonetheless. Hey, my boy. And the whole thing when you're watching elephants, folks, is that you just got to make sure you don't focus on the one animal. You just look around and make sure you survey the land, I suppose, is a good way to talk about it. And just do a little recce with your eyes, make sure you're just checking out if there's any other individuals around, because the last thing you ever want to do is become sort of an obstacle in between the herd, particularly in a breeding herd with young calves. So it's just a nice time just to take a little chill and have a look around. So give you a little sensory update. You know, I like to do that, tell you what it smells and sounds and feels like here. 25 degrees Celsius or centigrade and about 77 Fahrenheit, so it's medium warm. It's not too humid. I've got definite smell of buffalo. Lovely sort of cattle-like smell of buffalo. They really do smell similar to domestic cattle. And then you do get the waft. Now that elephant's just moving upwind of us a little bit. A waft of an ellie. Very, very still. No wind whatsoever. I'm just going to move on here a little bit so you can have a look at these buffalo. But the point I was making there was look how they're sitting. They're all sitting a particular way, and I'm sure you can see that. There's definite uniformity to the way they're sitting. So if you just joined us, folks, we're here at Treehouse Dam, and we're watching a group of African buffalo, a little herd of bachelor boys that are all lying in a particular direction. And I just wanted to note that it's a very characteristic position for them to take when they're at a water point, with their weaponry facing out, and they're more vulnerable and towards the water. And it's a very, very good place for them. They're very social animals, so they sit quite close together, sometimes even resting their heads and necks and chins on each other. You can see what's going on there. Quite a social sort of, one animal scratching the other one, or scratching his head on the other one. At the back there, just up a little bit higher, V, yeah. You can see he's having a scratch on his mate's leg there. Just got this elephant behind us, so I'm keeping my eye on that while you're watching that. So we know Q's still in the area, but we're not sure whether he's going to go back to that the remnants of that kill. We will definitely go back and have a look ourselves later. I'm just going to do a drive around and see if we can find any other tracks. Oh, this elephant's come a little bit closer to the road. We might walk back, go back to him. He's by himself as well, so we don't want him to feel in any way, shape or form threatened. So I just want to go back nice and gently. And he'll give us a few sort of warnings, or if we are coming to the vicinity that he doesn't like. So he's absolutely fine. It's okay, my boy. Really nice. It's a great way to, nice little spot here just to see how that trunk works and how incredibly prehensile it is, the ability to, with those two little fingers or finger-like structures on the end of the trunk, to pull off the most delicate tips that they possibly can and feed on that buffet. I always like to call it a buffet of vegetation, because they just walk along and take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, exactly like we do when we go to a restaurant where there's a buffet and you just take all the different types of salad. That's exactly what these guys do. And sometimes they might want something a little bit different in their diet, and they will push over a tree, eat some roots, some bark, even sometimes some soil if they're lacking some sort of mineral as well. Quite beautiful to watch, actually. It's an incredibly delicate instrument, and potentially the most important part of their body. They survive with it, really. They use it to breathe. They use it to pull up water into their trunk and push into their mouth. They use it to feed. They use it to communicate. They use it to fight with. They use it to smell, holding it up high if they need to pick up the scent of something. Magnificent design. He's right behind our vehicle, and I could just turn around a little bit. I think he's on the move. Hey, my boy. It's okay. Okay, we might just go back up. I'm just reversing back up because he's crossed the road, and he might still be okay with us. He looks like he's okay. He's been very relaxed. That's okay, my boy. That's okay. I always have this habit, folks, of talking to animals as I approach them, and it's an old thing from my zookeeping days that I worked with a wonderful, wonderful zookeeper. How's that tree behind me there? A wonderful zookeeper years ago by the name of Joe Haddock, and he was a great man. He's still ticking along, and he used to, you can just watch that elephant for me please, Liam, out of the corner of your eye. I'm sure he's fine. He's far enough away, he's completely relaxed. Yeah. Thank you, mate. So I worked with this zookeeper, Joe Haddock. He's a great man. He taught me loads about elephants, and he always used to approach animals and just say, easy, easy. That was his little way of telling them that he was approaching, so he didn't startle them. And I used to do it all the time when I was a zookeeper, and it's just stuck. I do it when I'm approaching from a bird to an elephant. But so if you do think I'm trying to talk to the animals, it's just a habit that I've always done. And you know what? I talk to some people, even some people that have been in the business for a very long time, and they do it as well. Just a little sort of tonal sort of prompt for the animal to know that you're coming along. I know they hear the vehicle, but it's sometimes nice. It's also just a nice way of communicating yourself. They're not picking up or understanding, obviously, of course, but it's just probably more of a thing for me than anything. All right, folks, it's been a nice little encounter down at the dam here. Thank you, my boy. We might just move on. It's quite a lovely little waterhole, this. I stop here 2 or 3 times a day, and there's always something. There's always something. Buffalo normally, or some birds. Another elephant over here. Maybe he's coming down to drink, so we might just put ourselves up on the dam wall here and have a little look. This could be quite interesting to watch, because the buffalo will just move out of the way for him. But what I do have to watch is that there's not a load of other elephants coming as I'm up on the dam wall. So we just have to keep our ears and eyes open always. Hey, gentlemen. I don't want to disturb you, boys. Sorry. I'll just stop here for you. Just on the other side, there's another lovely elephant with beautiful tusks over there. I don't know whether he's coming down to the water or just passing through. It's okay, buddy. he might be joining up with that other male. He's a big bull, lovely big bull. So there is a. So you've got the buffalo in the foreground. Let's have a look through my binoculars again. Buffalo in the foreground, elephant in the background. Some nice birds. We've got red-billed oxpeckers on the backs of the buffalo. We've got blacksmith's lapwings in the foreground. Okay, tricky one for old Q. I'm going to go back up and have another look if that's all right. I just think we might have missed a little track or a sign, something up there. It's probably the best thing, Liam. What do you think?
Yep, that's it.
That's a minute. So folks, we're going back up the same way. Sometimes you have to retrace your steps. That's life. You have to do it in lots of different things in life. It's worthwhile just double checking always, always, always.
Well guys, I was just busy calling H on the radio there. He's just back there at Treehouse Dam. I see here at the tail end of this herd, and it seems to be quite a big herd of elephants. And I'm hoping that it might be that herd with that particularly interesting young bull that was playing with us a few days ago. I was just wanting to let HT know that there's more Ellies this side, but let me just brought you here. Oh guys, I'm sorry, this is game drive, yeah?
Up towards Zebra Drive, so we can pick up on shadows. Right.
This is just awesome. Again, this herd right off the bat relaxed with us. We've driven right into them. We've got young ones in front of us, another bull further back, a couple of big females around us. But there was no concern, no communication amongst the herd saying there's a vehicle coming. Total normal behavior. And as I said, this is a herd that we have seen a few times, so we know that they're nice and comfortable with our presence. But it is always great when you see that even the little ones are relaxed. Partly because then the potential is there that they might be a little bit curious about us as well. Relaxed elephants, they're not worried about the vehicle. They are very smart animals, so they often become a little bit sort of curious about what we're up to as well. Nice big female this. You can see that nice square forehead. This is one of the differences between males and females. It's easier to distinguish when they're older. This is a nice big female. Guys, welcome back. Beautiful big elephant, and you've missed the last minute or two. This is the sort of front end of quite a big herd. We'll see just now. I'm guessing 20, 30 elephants, and it's the same herd as what we saw with Hayden earlier at the waterhole. They were just busy leaving from there. But it's a lovely herd as well, nice and relaxed, lots of youngsters like this one. And already, just since we've stopped here, only a few minutes ago, we've had a couple of the big females walk right past us. A couple of the youngsters were having a look at us as well. And I could easily spend the rest of the afternoon just with this herd. There's such a nice tranquil feeling amongst them. And I know that once you've spent a bit of time with these ellies, especially these youngsters, you know, they're young animals. You all know what young animals are like. Young humans, curious, want to check things out, want to sort of see what things are about. So you can spend some time with them and just see what they're up to. Yes, this is that same herd from the other day. There's a big female. She's has the left tusk is sort of down a bit. Here's one of the young ones. Lovely little ellie. Also a nice mix of animals here. Got the ellies here. I see now, I didn't actually see them earlier. Just there to the left there. I mean, you can't see it very well, but there's a big buffalo. Two of them, it looks like a couple of what we call dugger boys, these old mature males that are living in small bachelor groups. And they're hanging around close to Treehouse Dam, that waterhole that you saw not so long ago with HT. That is only behind us by about 300-400 yards. As you can see, no problem here. Different species quite easily interacting. They know each other well. Also buffalo and elephant, not necessarily the individuals, but as a species there's not really any sort of problems between them unless it gets very, very dry. At the moment it's not a problem. There's still lots of water. When it gets very dry, you will find elephants quite often dominating waterholes, even chasing other animals away, even keeping other animals away sometimes. Not for days on end, but for the time when they go drinking. Nice and warm, ears are moving. It's like the radiator for elephants. Quite thin, and the blood going through the ears as they move it through the wind, it cools down. They'll also, if it gets very hot, they'll spray water or mud onto the ears and the body to cool down. Something being said there in elephant. Good afternoon. Beautiful female, great condition. She's lactating, so one of these little ones would be her calf. Although with elephants, especially in bigger herds like this, they really look after each other's young ones as well. Often in little sort of creches, young ones hanging around together. One or two females looking after them. I just want to go further up ahead. See if we can't find that big female that we had a few days back with a cool little calf. See you again now. So they look after each other's youngsters as well. So even if you see a female with a calf, sometimes even with her, it might not necessarily be her calf. They quite happily look after each other's offspring as well. Yeah, the buffalo taking it easy. Look, it would be quite nice if we could see this. It's just one of the younger females, and the calf is busy suckling, and it's something that people often wonder about. It's how do baby elephant drink the milk? And they're going to move along again, but the calf was busy suckling. Firstly, elephants have got their mammary glands between the front legs, which is not that usual. And secondly, the young ones drink using their mouth, not the trunk. The trunk is literally just a long nose. See how they're walking along the road. This mother has taught that youngster, before you cross the road, first walk along it a bit and then cross it so that you know it's clear. See, it's very important how animals learn from their adults, from the parents. Just kidding. Actually, now I'm going to tell you something. It's not a joke. Have a quick look there. If you see those elephants, they're walking on the road. See there? I would love to know from you guys, if you let me know Why do elephants walk on the road? Hashtag Safari Live if you want to send it through, or you just chat with each other. There's a very, very good reason why elephants walk on the road. Lots of impalas. Well, these elephants are just moving into some thick stuff here, so I'm going to try and go around just now, try and find a good view again. Let's have a look at these impala quickly. It's so nice to have so many different animals together. Buffalo, impala, there was a warthog further back. We didn't get to see him now, but always great when there's sort of multiple species spending time together. These are all females. And they are mostly adults. I'm just trying to see in that group. All adult females, but some of them are young females as well. And what's quite amazing is only at about 6 months old. These ones were born normally November, December. So you're looking at 6, 7 months at the oldest. It's already becoming difficult to tell the difference between the adults and the youngsters. They grow so fast. See the rest of the herd just catching up. There's a young one. This one is easy to see that he's young because of those little horns. That's a young male, and he would be about 6 to 7 months old. Here's a big male coming now. So there's so much impala activity that's sort of starting to happen now. We're going into the mating season, or the rutting season. There's busy marking. They've got these little glands called preorbital glands, which is just a sort of a formal name for glands that are in front of the eye. And they leave a scent mark like that, rubbing it on a little twig. He's making a bit of a calling. This guy has got a busy 2 months ahead of him. He's in prime condition. I would say he's probably 5 years old, just looking at his neck and shoulder development, his horn development. In his prime. And he's got a busy time ahead, because in the rut he's not only got to keep the female herds together and all the mating behavior that goes along with that, he's also got to constantly take on challenges from other males. So what you have in the main season when they're mating, you'll have these bachelor groups following the breeding groups, and these males will actually be constantly just looking for a weakness. As soon as that guy looks a little bit slow, they'll be in there. I think we're going to go back to those ellies. I want to see if we can't find a better way in there. Get a bit closer to them. Let's go have a look. Amazing to think that there's about 20, 30 odd elephants, probably closer to 30 or more even. Just, yeah, I mean, there I can see one briefly, but I say this often, and I will still say it many times again. Here's another one falling down. Let's wait for her. We've got 30 odd plus elephants here at the moment, not far from the road, and we can hardly see one. Even she's just disappeared. And then we want to go into bush as thick as this and find one leopard that is sleeping under one of those bushes. I love optimists. I've always been a huge optimist when it comes to anything, but I think maybe the wildlife angle is an important one. Right, let's try and get in there. Here are the two buffalo bulls. What's interesting is they're sort of moving, and it might just be a coincidence, but they're sort of moving just along the same direction as the elephant. Not that there's anything other than coincidence in that. It's not like they specifically want elephants as company or for company. In fact, these guys will almost certainly go back to Treehouse Dam again. Just look at that guy. You can see he's got lots of dry mud on his skin. Earlier he must have had a mud bath to cool down, but also to get rid of parasites. That mud helps to get rid of ticks and fleas and things like that. But the mud is dry, so it might be time for another fresh mud bath soon. This is a big bull, huh? All muscle. He would be, I'm trying to guess, but my estimate would be about 800 kilograms, maybe a bit more, 850. That's about 1,700, between 1,700 and 1,800 pounds. But it's not the weight necessarily that's impressive, it's the power that comes with that. Now, I know many people that weigh exactly the same as Mike Tyson, but I'd rather be hit by them than him, if you know what I mean. It's how you package that weight, it's how you put it all together. And with buffalo, they package it for power. Leopard, I guess leopard would be packaged for stealth and speed. I just keep seeing it, trying to go into those Ellies is going to be a little bit tough and very noisy, so to make a better plan, I'm going to go around. There's another road on the other side of that thicket. We'll rather come in from there. I think that might be a bit easier. This is the last one in that group. She's just trailing behind a little bit. Yeah, I think we should get the others on the other side. Let's go have a look. We're just going around, as I just said, but so I'm thinking about a few things, you know. That's one of the things I love about game drives is this whole experience that you, as the guide or the ranger or whatever you want to call us, you've got this opportunity to tell little stories as they happen. A bird there, wildlife, you know, elephant there. Then there's a story to tell of elephants. In other words, how you let that sighting develop, which is hopefully what is going to work in our favor now. The plan doesn't always come together the way you plan it, but there's also the whole drive itself, is the whole experience that you can build at, you know, knowing that the sun is going to set and all the different aspects of it. And that for me has always been a great sort of, it's like a 3-hour experience that you can help create or help improve even, or make nice, for lack of a better word. And it's always good fun. Speaking of which, a little bit earlier I was asking, why does the elephant walk down the road? And I believe we've got a few answers. We're going to give 1 or 2, 3 back to them. Just I've got my answer. It's a standard one. I've had the same convincing theory on this for about 20 years. So my answer is exactly the same. But I'm going to give it after we've had a few feedback answers from you guys. And also, hopefully by that time, we'll have a few elephants with us again. Yes, Jody, because they're so smart and they want to keep track of predators. Interesting place. Elephants walk. Someone said it's easier on the feet. I just missed your name there. Yes, D, it is actually easier on the feet, which is also coming back to the first answer, why a lot of predators walk on the road. So an elephant would smell if there was a predator. Good answers, I like it. I like it when people think about potential answer, because this is all logic in the end. You know, nature is not something weird and stupid. It's weird and wonderful, but it's not weird and bizarre. You know, there's a logic to a lot of it. Still not the answer I've got. Let's see one or two other ones. Yes, Tom, what did you say? They want to make elephant pathways. Nice one, Tom. Yes, Brandy, you've got the same answer as mine. I'm going to give that one just now. But Tom, I like your thinking. In fact, it's almost the other way around sometimes. Tom is saying that they walk on the roads to make elephant pathways. And quite often, these roads were originally animal paths, which elephant obviously make the biggest of them. And then because animals walked here a lot and people came here and following the animals, they made them into roads. So a lot of these roads were actually elephant pathways or animal pathways that developed into roads later on. But Brandy, and I'm sure there's a few others that have the same reason for their answer, by the way. That's what I like about game driving as well, is you have different people with you with different thoughts, different opinions, and different stories as well. But for Brandy's answer, which is the same as mine, the same theory I've had for 20 years, elephants walk down the road because they can. Simple as that. Would you agree, Tom? Or Judy? Thank you for the answers, guys. It's great to have a conversation. It's great to have people doing this with us. And we say this often, without you, literally without you, we wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. So that alone, you know, big thank you for that. But also, without everyone in the vehicle, that's what makes a game drive. It is sharing these experiences, that moment of elation when you see a leopard, or the moment of sadness when you experience loss, or when you realize that the animals made the kill. I mean, that's one of the things. People are fascinated by kills. Often they don't know why. It's this sort of primal drive in us. But kills fascinate people, I think, because firstly we are predators. We hunt our food for a long time. It's just become very easy these days. Convenience is obviously a great thing. You know, I'm a big fan of it as well. Maybe the first thing, but something I've experienced every time is that people have this excitement about the hunt, and then they have that little bit of a sort of a letdown almost at the end. That emotional aspect is also great about a game drive. Now, I can tell you a little bit, the next emotion you might feel, it might not be, but I think you're going to have that little sort of cute and fuzzy feeling, because we're going to look at some very, very cute and fuzzy animals, even though they are great predators. So enjoy that. HG is going to tell you all about them, one of the cutest little things around here. We'll see you back here in a bit.
Folks, you might wonder what's in this shot at the moment, but there's a little tail you can see moving, and that little tail belongs to a dwarf mongoose, Africa's smallest mongoose. And I'm just trying to see if we can see his face there. Fantastic little creatures, really great to watch. I just want to see if he, I think that's his tail, isn't it, VM? You can see there?
Yep, that's his tail.
Don't know if they're going to come back out. They're all just watching us, and then we something must have given them a little bit of a fright, and they went back into those little holes. They're sitting in a termite mound at the moment, which they'll use frequently to get away from predators. They'll have a little sentry on guard. Let me just drive forward a bit, see if he... There he is. I was just going to drive forward and see if we could see him. Obviously you think that the engine would give him a little bit of a startle, but I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted to see that if he was... They may come out... Oh, it's a bit hard, isn't it? How long do you wait? It's one of those things where you just have to have a little bit of patience, but sometimes you'll have a complete family foraging around and in and out of a termite mound. I don't think he's going to come back. I can hear the little calls of the little contact calls that they're making. I just need to see if I can find one for you after I stopped. I just want to show you, they're so beautiful. I'm sure many people have seen them before. Beautiful little mongoose. Only weigh about sort of 300 grams, about the same weight as about 3 small apples. Those tiny sort of apples, those little lunch apples you'd put in a kid's school box, lunch box. That's about how much they weigh. So they're tiny little guys, but they're not there. And they were gone. So I just saw out of the corner of my eye, he just popped his head up out of the termite mound, and he sat with us for a little bit, and then he disappeared. But we'll find some more. There's loads of them around, and they're a fantastic little mongoose. As I said, tiny, weighing about 3 little tiny apples. The reason why I'm telling a few zoo stories today. The reason why I know how much fruit normally weighs is because when I was looking after some small monkeys called tamarins and marmosets, we'd have to weigh their food out every day. We'd have to cut it up fine, cut up food for them, and then feed them in little, like put it into their enclosure. And I remember 100 grams, and I'm not sure what that is in ounces, folks. I do apologise, but that's roughly the size of a small apple, a kid's lunchbox apple. And then you've got an orange weighed about 200 grams. And I always used to remember these weights, strangely enough. Yeah, anyway, just one of those weird old things you remember back from your zookeeping days. Just heading over to an area where one of the leopards was seen last, listening to the radio to see what we can hear. The reason why you can hear the radio at the moment, folks, is because we've got new radios, and these new radios, we've got a little speaker on them. Normally we wouldn't be able to hear what the Game Drive channel says, and the reason for that is because it just becomes a lot of noise and a lot of mess for you to take in at home or wherever you're watching, and it just makes a little bit of a, I don't know, it confuses things a little bit. So we have to have these on now because we don't have them connected to our ear comms. So please excuse, sometimes you'll hear a little bit of radio chatter. I just want to stop to show you this bird, and I know a lot of people have seen it as well, but it's one of my favourite little birds. It's one of those quintessential African sounds. It's called a crowned lapwing. Fantastic little bird, common resident, you know, but at the same time, I really like to make sure that we don't just drive past these birds and not stop, because they are beautiful. They used to be called a crowned plover, but all the plovers have now been taxonomically had their names changed taxonomically, so they're now called lapwings. So anything that was a crowned plover or a blacksmith's plover or a spur-winged plover, there's all different plovers all around the world, and they're all lapwings now. They do a lovely little courtship dance there. Very noisy little guys, loud grating sort of sound that's given during the day and during the night. And as I said, they're a common resident, and they're slightly nomadic at times as well, but they are generally found here throughout the year. And this is the sort of country they love, this open country, short sort of grassland area. And they probably have a nest around here somewhere. notorious for nesting right next to the road with incredibly camouflaged eggs as well. So one has to be very careful when one's driving down the roads that you don't drive over a little nest of lapwings. And I mean, it's really important that you do take everything into account when you are driving along.
There's a load of dwarf mongooses on the
Oh, well spotted, VM. See, my eyes in the sky. Now, I'm just going to drive over a little bit closer to these guys. Really good spotting, V. I don't normally drive off the road for mongoose, folks, but I'm just going to drive a little bit closer just because it's too far away for us to see. If we approach quietly, they're foraging around there. Just want to keep a light drive here, just let them know that we're not here to push them off that termite mound. What we've done now is just come up to this group of this little band of mongoose. This is the dwarf mongoose, which we mentioned before. They look pretty comfortable. They're keeping an eye on us, and they do have the one characteristic is they all band off together. They all run off to another termite mound. But I might just stop here. Is that close enough for the minute, VM? Let you get in and see those little guys a little bit closer. So we've just been driving around. We were looking for Q. I didn't have any luck. I'm going to go back there a bit later because he could be flat somewhere under a tree, and we could be driving around all afternoon looking for that little guy. But I just thought we'd go for a bit of a drive and see what else we could find, and we've come across these beautiful dwarf mongoose. So if you didn't, you just joined us, and you might have missed out the information I shared before. They are Africa's smallest mongoose, and they weigh about 300 grams. Now, if 300 grams doesn't mean anything to you, I just gave a comparison of about the weight of 3 lunchbox apples, those small apples you put into a kid's lunchbox to go to school with. And they're just a very, very interesting little creature. They live sort of normally around termite mounds or aardvark holes or that sorts of things. Sometimes it might be a nice big log that's been overtaken by termites. And they're diurnal, which it means that they're only active during the day. There's a lot of grooming and social activity going on here. I'm just going to have a look through my binoculars and see. Yeah, a lot of lovely behaviour going on there. Bit of grooming, bit of feeding, bit of lying, basking in the sun. Very bold little creatures when it comes to looking for food. They just constantly, this is like probably the quietest you'll see a group. This is when they're relaxing, but it doesn't last for very long. They'll end up taking off and then starting to forage again, working tirelessly to find food. A lot of grooming going on there at the moment that I can see from afar. I think we just try and get a little bit closer, ever so slightly, not too much. It's okay, guys. So that's completely fine. What they do there, they might hear a noise like that, and they all move away a little bit, but then they just get comfortable with you. They're watching. It's all right, guys. We just come a little bit closer and we stop. There we go, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. So you see one of them's got a keen eye up here, And when they are comfortable, they'll be just grooming and feeding. And then if a raptor or a snake or any something of danger approached, they would send out a very high-pitched alarm call, and they all understand that and would scurry for cover. Got a nice question from Joyce, and this is the great thing, Joyce. What you've just done is you've put two and two together and you've looked at the journey. It's really, really clever to ask the question that you've just asked. Would the mongoose potentially destroy the lapwing eggs? And Joyce, welcome to you, and what a great question. Absolutely they would. They would devour those eggs with relish, but they eat anything really. They eat mainly things like grubs, rodents, any small reptiles they possibly can. They eat fruits. They're pretty independent of water too, which is an interesting thing. They get most of their moisture from what they eat, but they would love those eggs. So yes, that's why those lapwing eggs are incredibly camouflaged. But there's a big button here, Joyce, and that is those lapwings would defend those eggs fiercely. They really would, and they normally nest in an open area, very open area, so the mongoose would be putting themselves in a vulnerable position out in that open area, because there could be other eyes in the sky watching, and if a raptor was to swoop down, they could easily take one of these guys. Just going to have a quick drink, folks, excuse me. Thank you very much for your question, Joyce. We've got a nice question from Joe in Wales. Hi Joe, welcome aboard, great to have you with us. Beautiful day here in Africa. Your question is whether the mongoose would eat termites. Well, they would eat termites to a degree. They eat a few of them. They're not predominantly focused on termites, more foraging, they'd eat a few, maybe, but they're not going to dig down in that burrow and try like a aardvark would, or an aardwolf for that matter. They're more interested in using the termite mounds as a little place of refuge where they can scurry away from a predator if it approaches, and then they would probably go out at the right time when the senior female, and I repeat that, the senior female, again like the matriarch elephant, would lead them off into the vegetation to go and have a foraging run. But at the moment they're in a nice area where they've got a little bit of refuge in those big holes into the termite mound where they could escape to. They're all watching. They look after each other. It's a very, very tight-knit group, but they wouldn't go digging for those termites. If a termite came out, it may eat it, but there's quite an acrid taste to termites. There's only a few animals that do love them. But then again, you do get these incredible nights where just before like a rain comes, you'll get a beautiful flush of termites that emerge from a nest and go off to make other nests, and you can have all different species of animals around those nests eating those termites as they fly out for a fantastic source of protein. So to answer your question, yes, they could eat a termite or two, but it's not one of the things that they probably find as much as palatable as eggs, other little rodents, and small reptiles. They're very interesting little guys. I'm going to just try and edge up a little bit closer. There's some great pictures there of. It's all right, guys. They're pretty comfortable at the moment. Just a little bit closer. It's all right, guys. So slowly with wildlife, folks. That's what it's all about. Gently. And you can see they just went straight back to grooming then. So no danger present in us. They know we're staying a good distance away and allowing them to carry on with their natural behaviour.
Thank you, man.
So I've stayed with these mongoose, these dwarf mongoose. If you've just joined us, stay with these dwarf mongoose for quite a while now because they're being so fantastic. They're just behaving beautifully, or behaving, I should say. They're tolerating us beautifully. They're looking down that direction for something. I don't know what it is, but something was walking through there then. And they've all got their eyes looking down that direction. And very interesting. Acute sense of sight and hearing, and also lots of pairs of ears and lots of pairs of eyes that they all help each other. I'm just looking around to see what they're looking at. It's quite nice just to sit for a bit, folks, with a couple of animals and just as they watch their behaviour, nice and gently. And particularly that they don't stay for very long normally. I've got a nice question from Matt in Toronto. And Matt, welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us. Matt's question is, how many members are normally in a dwarf mongoose family, or a band, as they're commonly known? And the answer to that is it varies considerably, but this is probably a nice group. This is probably about 14 or 15 individuals. So it just depends on the availability of food, and it ranges. Sometimes they can be I don't know, in a size of between 3 and 15, but this is probably an average size, I'd say. I think there's about 12 individuals there, just a couple running off now at the moment. and we might be lucky enough to see them take off and run into the grassland and maybe go foraging, but little babies just run off to have a look at something. Just over on the log there, mate. Yeah, there's one little one. Another little one. And another little one. And this might be the moment that they're all going to forage, or they might be just a bit, I think they're actually having a little tussle over there. They're having a wrestle along that log. So to answer your question, it's really just about anywhere between 2 and 18, sort of around 14 or 15 is quite common. Now, I have really not the most fantastic radio signal here, folks, so apologies for if I get your name not exactly right. I'm getting most of the information through, but I do apologise if I mispronounce someone's name or place they're from. The questions you've been firing through to us are fantastic, and they do create the drive. They do sort of craft the drive. I always like to use the word craft because you help us make the drive. And it's really nice just to sit and be for a little bit. We do a lot of driving around looking for animals, but when you find a beautiful little group of mammals like this now, it's quite nice just to sit with them for a while. Well, I'm trying to get the information as best I can. I'm going to have a go at this. I think I've got an 8th grade class watching with Jackie, Miss Jackie. I'm thinking that's it. And Miss Jackie, I'm not sure if you're the same Miss Jackie that I've actually talked to last year in November. And if you are, fantastic to see you again, or to talk to you again and have you on our vehicle with all the 8th graders. How great it is to have you. And if it's not the same Miss Jackie, it's great to have you guys with us as well. Have a look at that little baby behind on their corner there. Sorry. Miss Jackie, your class's question is, do these mongoose eat snakes like Rikki Tikki Tavi, that famous story about that mongoose? Well, I don't think these guys are going to take on a large snake, that's for sure, but they will eat small reptiles, and they're not sort of as bold as, for example, meerkats and some of the other mongoose. They're the smallest mongoose, remember. So they normally go for sort of insects and rodents, and sometimes they might be looking for other small invertebrates that they can find as well. But they're probably not going to take on the really venomous snakes like some other animals. They do, and all you 8th grade class there watching, and I wish I could just zoom myself over there. Well, I'm actually zoomed myself over into your classroom. How fantastic is that? And you've gotten on the back of our vehicle. This is the most fantastic experience to be able to do this. And what they do, and look, here it comes one now. There's a hornbill that's just flown over into the background there. There's another one flying through shot just at the top of that tree, VM. If you just tilt up right above where you are, there's a hornbill sitting in that tree. If you want to just focus in on that, it's quite an interesting little story here. And this is for you, for Miss Jackie's class. I'm just going to get VM to focus on. It's a little bit of a silhouette, that bird. You can see it to the right of the screen, just moving its bill, moving its head around. And I'm going to tell you a really interesting story, kids and everyone else watching, about these two animals. In some parts of Africa, there's been some documentation or some stories, kids, about an association. Now, an association is something where two animals might work together and they both benefit from it. And in this particular case, that bird at the top of that tree there, which is called a southern yellow-billed hornbill, has a little association with these dwarf mongoose that are right in front of us here. Now, what they'll do is they'll actually feed together. And, you know, sometimes the dwarf mongoose don't get all the animals that they flush out, and the hornbill will swoop down and pick up some of those little titbits there, or those little extras that the mongoose miss. But at the same time, what the hornbills do is let off a little alarm call when it might be a predator that's been sighted. They'll let off this alarm call, and then the mongoose can all disappear. So it happens to be that these two guys are friends. They are friends and they work together, and these associations, or these special, like, kind of friendships, but they're kind of working teams or working parties, they work together and they benefit each other. They both get good things out of it. And I think that's really fascinating stuff, that a bird and a mammal can work together and help each other. And I think that's another magical thing about nature. So, Miss Jackie, thank you for your class watching, and what a wonderful thing you are doing, because we know how hard teachers work all around the world, and to get your class to watch this is a brilliant thing, so hats off to you. I think I got a message from Katrina, and Katrina is asking, what's the most unusual bird I've seen? Well, the most unusual bird I find in this part of Africa is the ground hornbill. I think they're absolutely amazing. They're one of the most beautiful birds, and haven't got one right now, but I'll just tell VM when I've got one, and I'll show you a picture of one on my little app that I've got. Just bear with me for a second whilst you're watching these little guys grooming still. I just have to find it for you. So they're just picking up that last bit of afternoon sun. But I want to show you, to answer your question, Katrina, if VM can just pan back here and look at this bird here. I've only got it on my app because I haven't seen them. I've only seen them twice down here since we've been back here. I'm sorry, since we've been here. And this is the ground hornbill. Unusual bird, and here's its call. And that is probably the most unusual bird I've seen in a long time, since my time in Africa. But then there's hornbills all over. There's hornbills all over the world. There's a hornbill in Uganda called a trumpeter hornbill, and they've got a massive. There's another one, a black and white casqued hornbill. So hornbills are fantastic. We might move on. I think we've had some great times with these wonderful, wonderful creatures, and how incredible that they've let us be here. I'm going to reverse out of this situation and see if they just don't move. Now, I'm going to explain something to you. It's all right, guys. Now, if they all stay there, and we reverse. So my radio comms are not very good here, but I'm going to have a bit of a guess. And I'm going to pass over to Pieter, but what I want to just say before I do, that is the ultimate wildlife viewing example. We moved in slowly. We watched animals behave naturally. We observed them. We had time with them. We learnt some things from them. I'm constantly learning every time I watch animals, and we've removed ourselves from the situation, and they're carrying on doing what they're doing. Happy days. Let's see what Pete's up to. We're going to cross over to Pete, and I'll come back to you just now.